So I have had the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3 for the last 11 days, and let's talk about battery life. First of all, I want to say this is my experience with this and yours may vary. Keep in mind I have had this device for that amount of time, and it took me about the first 4 to 5 days for the battery life information and processing and all that to settle in, for all the photos to download, and all the apps to kind of settle in, and file management to be handled, and all the just general initialization of the device. After that, I decided to test it for a couple days with 60 hertz on and see how the battery life was. And it was okay. I was getting about maybe 4 or 5 hours of screen on time. And keep in mind, that's across a 16 to 20 hours off the charger. And so you have standby time, you have being out and about, going for walks, being, having it in my pocket where it's not on the best cell signal and things like that. And then after that, for the last about 3 or 4 days, I switched it up and I turned 120 hertz on. And I noticed something the very first day that I turned that 120 hertz on. Battery life got better. I've been getting 7 to 8 hours of screen on time, same use. And keep in mind, I browse Twitter, I'm in Twitter Spaces, I am taking photos, trying to record video, I'm browsing social media, watching YouTube, watching Netflix, watching some TikTok, and checking my emails, doing all sorts of different tasks with it, replying to your comments, coming up with ideas, writing out ideas, and just using it like I would any other device. And that's the screen on time that I've gotten. And I was shocked to see that 120 hertz got me, 50 to 60% better screen on time. My theory on that is that 60 hertz is locked in and that 120 hertz is adaptive, which if you look into the technology that Samsung is using on this, they're using the same thing that they did with the S21 Ultra, where it essentially can throttle or dip down to 10 hertz at different increments all the way up to 120 hertz. So if you're watching video and you're watching a YouTube video, and let's say that's a 1080p 30 video, it will only need to run at 30 hertz. If you're scrolling online, when you're scrolling through stuff really quickly, it might go up to 120 hertz, but then when it's sitting there and you're just reading through that text, it can drop down to 10 hertz. So the efficiency for when it's doing things that doesn't require the higher frame rate, depending on what you're doing, I feel like that's where that battery life comes into play. Next, I want to talk to you guys about a couple things to consider to improve battery life. And yeah, you shouldn't have to go into settings and disable things, but just keep in mind that every device is going to kind of come with all these things turned on. And if you're okay with the battery life that you're going to get with them all turned on, but if you want to gain an hour or 2 hours, potentially more, just keep in mind turning off NFC when you're not using it, turning off Bluetooth when you're not using it, turning off Wi-Fi when you're not using it. Search in the settings for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth scanning and turning those off, because otherwise, essentially, even when your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth are off, it will be scanning for devices. It will be using your Wi-Fi to kind of triangulate location. Another thing to think about is Facebook and Instagram and certain apps tend to really use your battery life even when you don't have them running in the background, like actively open in the task switcher in the recent apps. Go in and put those so they're in the sleep under the battery options. And then what happens is that those will run only when you have them actively open as the window. So if you have certain apps that you don't really care to have running in the background, do that. Your messaging apps I wouldn't do that with, because then you might not get the notifications, you might not get the messages. So that's been my experience as far as battery life, and just a few tips and tricks on kind of how to improve your battery life there. Thanks for watching this one, and of course, as always, if you haven't subscribed, hit that button down below so you get more information like this on, Samsung devices and all different devices that I review. And if you like this video, of course, give it a big thumbs up. And if you have any other tips down below or questions, of course, put those in the comments, and I reply as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.